Chapter 1: Evidence in my eyes, my marriage, or rather, my entire life came crashing down early one Monday morning when I discovered solid proof that my boss was betraying my wife. To make matters worse, they were doing this in my home and in my bed while I was at work. No, I didn't hear it from a friend, nor did someone show me pictures or a video. It was being live streamed right to my personal laptop, which I always took with me to work to keep my personal stuff separate from the company network. And there it was, right before my eyes, Wendy, my lovely wife of 15 years with my boss, John. I kept the volume low because I really didn't want to hear what they might have been saying to each other. Just witnessing it in real time was enough to shake me to my core. At that moment, all I knew was that my once happy married life had come to an end, and someone was going to face the consequences at a great cost. By the way, forget those stories where the betrayed husband finds excitement in watching someone else secretly involved with his wife. There was no excitement, only blind rage and the desire to make someone suffer. From that moment on, revenge became my sole focus. Chapter 2: Bill and Wendy. Let me provide some context. My name is Bill Nelson, and I work for a large company in the Northwest. I actually met Wendy before my first wife, who turned out to be unfaithful and mentally unstable. As much as that first marriage was unpleasant, it did produce 2 incredible children whom I cherish. Wendy and I met through a blind double date. Shortly after arriving at Casa El Toro, which is now closed, a friend offered to set me up on a double date. I thought, why not? It beat sitting in the barracks, listening to Marines making a ruckus. Originally, Wendy was meant to be his date, and her friend Darlene would accompany me. However, fate had other plans. Darlene hit it off with my friend, and Wendy and I clicked instantly. She was, and still is, a beautiful woman. With her long blonde hair, captivating green eyes, and a smile that could brighten any room, she possessed the longest, most elegant legs I had ever laid eyes on. We dated for a significant amount of time before we eventually grew apart. It was a mutual decision, no hard feelings. Then, 4 years later, I found myself in the middle of a divorce as my ex-wife took our kids and headed to California to be with her new partner. One day, I felt the urge to reach out to Wendy, knowing there was a possibility that she might already be married and wouldn't want to hear from me. I wouldn't blame her, but something inside me told me that I needed to try. After some time getting through to the operator, we didn't have the internet back then, I obtained her number and gave it a call. To my surprise, she answered, mentioning that it was a good thing I called when I did because she and her roommate were in the middle of apartment hunting. And no, there wasn't a boyfriend in the picture. Talk about luck. Bond. We spoke for what felt like hours, reconnecting as if no time had passed. I shared my divorce situation and my 2 kids and invited her to see each other again. Astonishingly, she agreed. I spent the following Christmas with her in California, and our bond was so strong that I couldn't resist asking her to marry me. Tears filled her eyes as she revealed that she had a medical condition preventing her from having children. I reassured her that I loved her for who she was, not for her ability to bear children, and I meant every word. Yes, she said, her voice filled with emotion, I'll marry you and strive to be the best wife a man could ever hope for. We got married the following June, after I completed my service in the military. That marked the beginning of what, until now, had been a wonderful life. Over the years, Wendy battled thyroid cancer and underwent open heart surgery to replace a faulty valve. She spent 2 months in the hospital due to complications and had to take blood thinners, which led to easy bruising. Several years later, she faced another heart surgery to repair an aortic aneurysm. Shortly after that, I suffered a heart attack and had to undergo a quadruple bypass. Naturally, these health issues affected our love life. We eventually relocated to the Northwest, where I secured a job as a system operator. Our company managed various significant accounts across the country, including state, local, and federal contracts. My responsibility was to monitor these networks, address any issues promptly, and involve the appropriate personnel to minimize potential downtime. My manager retired, and I was informed that I was being considered for his position since I already led the team and had a deep understanding of our systems. However, the company decided to hire John Brown, who had recently left a local hospital. HR explained that they were required to post the job opening for 5 days before considering internal candidates, but assured me that I would receive a significant raise. From the beginning, John harbored a strong dislike towards me and did everything in his power to undermine me. He even went so far as to blame me for incidents that occurred while I was off duty. We had numerous disagreements, often escalating to him shouting obscenities at me. One day, our overnight operator didn't show up without any notice. Given my role as lead, I would have been informed if something was wrong, but everything seemed normal. That day, John informed me that I would be taking on the overnight shift. Why? I questioned. After all, typically the most junior team member filled that position, not the team lead. Because I need you there, John stated. Did Ryan approve this? Does he know about it? I countered. Ryan was John's boss. It doesn't matter, John replied. This is my team, and I'll assign roles as I see fit. Besides, it's only temporary. Angela will take over as the lead until I find someone else for that position. It's up to you, work the overnight shift or find another place to work. Don't worry, your salary will remain the same, and you'll receive a 10% shift differential. Something about this situation didn't sit well with me, but I felt as if I had no other choice, especially with all our medical bills. Plus, he mentioned it was only temporary, so I swallowed my pride and agreed with an okay. I knew Wendy wouldn't be happy about it, but we had adapted to challenges countless times before, so I assumed we would navigate this hurdle as well. I did make a mental note to contact the previous overnight operator to investigate further. Things quickly took a turn for the worse after the company's annual 4th of July picnic. I'm still not entirely sure what transpired, but we ended up leaving early. Wendy's entire demeanor changed after that day. She became easily irritated, snapping at even the slightest provocation. Of course, our love life completely vanished. She never disclosed what happened and would shut me down whenever I asked. The thought that she might be having an affair never crossed my mind. However, now, 2 months later, I had undeniable proof. Chapter 3, The Outing. Every year, our company hosts a grand picnic for Independence Day. It features classic American food like hamburgers and hot dogs, refreshments, and of course, good clean fun with fireworks. It serves as an opportunity for everyone to relax, bond, and take a moment for themselves. As Wendy and I arrived at the park, I noticed a new sign emphasizing that the park was under constant video surveillance. The city's Parks and Recreation Department had implemented this system to address illegal activities and misuse of the park. As part of our company's contract, we played a role in managing and monitoring the cameras to ensure public safety. We parked the car and headed towards the picnic area. I spotted my team's table and made our way over. John caught sight of us and introduced himself to Wendy, giving me a look that seemed to imply, "You're one lucky guy." And indeed, I was fortunate to have Wendy by my side, as she maintained an attractive figure despite her surgeries. Her yellow sundress perfectly complemented her long legs. I grabbed a couple sodas from a nearby cooler, filled up 2 cups with ice, and poured Wendy and I a cold drink. Somewhere along the way, a couple shots of root beer ended up in our drinks, even though the park had a strict rule regarding open containers. We don't indulge in soda much, but do enjoy a bit every now and then. Wendy asked if I could grab her a hot dog from the grill, so I happily headed out to get us something to eat. The food line was pretty long, so I spent the next 15-20 minutes chatting with some of the other guys while waiting to get our dogs. I got the dogs, loaded them up with relish, mustard, and ketchup, and headed back to our table. But there was only one problem. Wendy wasn't there. Neither was John. What on earth, I wondered. Where did she go? I really didn't care about John's absence, but Wendy's concerned me, since she usually went out of her way to let me know if she was going to freshen up, as she put it. I asked Sandy if she knew where Wendy had gone to, and she told me she thought the two of them headed to the restrooms, which were on the edge of the park area we were using. No problem, I thought. She'll be back in a few minutes. 15 minutes later, and still no Wendy. Maybe she was waiting in line. There were a lot of people at the party, after all. 30 minutes, no Wendy. 45 minutes. Still no Wendy. I sensed something was wrong and headed off to find her. I got to the restrooms and called out her name, hoping that she would respond. She stumbled out of the women's room, holding her head. "You don't have to yell so loud," she said, slurring her words. Oh no, I thought. What happened? What happened? I asked. Did you fall? Did someone hurt you? Get me home, now, she said weakly. I guided her back to the car, telling everyone I saw on the way that we needed to get home. John was at our table and had a smirk on his face as he shouted, "Good to meet ya, Wendy. See ya later." What did he mean by that? I asked Wendy. "Just get me home," she said, shaking her head. I got her in the car and headed out, thinking that maybe I should take her to the emergency room to get her checked out. "Maybe you should go to the doctor," I said. "Just get me home now," she yelled. There was silence for the rest of the 30-mile trip. as there was no arguing with her at this point, but John's farewell stuck in my mind. Now I know why. I still didn't know the whole story, though. Chapter 4, Putting the Puzzle Together. Wendy was a completely different person after the picnic. I had a feeling something happened and that something involved my boss, but she refused to talk about it. Worse yet, she began to push me away every time I reached out to her for a hug. For 2 months, I walked on eggshells, not knowing what would set her off. The condo went uncleaned for several days, and I actually had to ask her to do our laundry. Of course, that sparked a horrific argument. Things were fairly off with John as well. He was even more smug and condescending than usual, and tried to blame me for things that took place during the weekend shift. He even threatened to write me up for a minor mistake made by one of the day operators. One day, he asked me about my sleep machine, wondering if it actually helped me sleep. This was odd, because I never mentioned my machine to him or anyone else at work. How did he know I used one? Did Wendy say something at the picnic? Was he in my house? What really bothered me was the look on his face, which set off a whole bunch of red flags. I would get my answers sooner than I thought. Sometime later, I noticed a slip of paper just under Wendy's side of the bed. I picked it up and opened it to make sure it wasn't an important receipt we needed to keep for our taxes. You can imagine my shock to see John's name and the last 4 digits of his debit card on the receipt, which came from the gas station around the corner from our condo. It also showed the date and time, which showed he made his purchase not too long after I checked into work. While concerning, I didn't feel the receipt by itself was conclusive evidence of wrongdoing on his or Wendy's part, and I wasn't quite ready to confront either one of them just yet. I needed something more, like audio and video. The opportunity came soon enough when Wendy went shopping with her mother one Sunday. I was kind of glad she was gone because I really had had enough of her non-stop sour attitude. I had already purchased some tiny wireless cameras I could deploy around the house, as well as audio recorders. I couldn't very well tell Wendy I was installing them, so I could catch her in the act of some misbehavior with my boss, so I had to wait until she was going to be gone for a while. I also put a program on my home server that allowed me to stream video from the cameras to my laptop. I had some time before Wendy and her mother got home, so I decided to check her email. Yeah, I had her password since she often asked me to fix one little thing or another. I logged into her webmail account and searched for anything that might indicate the two of them were in contact. There was nothing in her inbox, and her deleted items folder was empty. That in itself was odd, since she generally didn't delete anything. I took a look in her sent items box and found that, too, had been emptied out. So I took a look at her Facebook account to see if there was any communication there. Nope, nothing. The only thing left for me to check was her phone, but that would have to wait for the time being. I decided to call Chuck, the previous night operator, hoping to arrange a meeting. I got his cell phone number from an old team roster, and he readily agreed to meet me at a restaurant located about halfway between his place and mine. I left a note for Wendy telling her I was meeting a coworker and would be back in a couple hours or so. "Hey, Bill," Chuck said as I got out of the car. He didn't look too good. "Hey, Chuck, how are you doing?" I asked, hoping to break the ice. We went inside and got ushered to a booth. "Lunch is on me," I told him as we gave the waitress our order. "Thanks, Bill. I appreciate that," he said. "Seriously, it's been tough." "So what happened?" I asked. Chuck looked as though he was going to cry. "Don't worry, bud. I've heard it all," I said, trying to reassure him. John tried to. He started, clearly nervous. "Go on," I said. "What did he do?" "He tried to hurt my wife," Bill said, looking around to see if anyone else heard. "Damn," I said. "How did you know?" "Did you catch him?" "No," Chuck said. "Promised her all kinds of stuff, but she told him to go away or she would call the police." "That's what she told me. He was really awful." "I'm so sorry to hear that," I said. "So he fired you because your wife wouldn't comply with him." "He fired me after I threatened to file charges against him and report him to Ryan," Chuck said. "The company had a morals clause to prevent things like this from happening." John fired me on the spot and threatened me, saying he'd really harm me and my wife if I said anything to anyone, Chuck said. John was a pretty big guy, so I could see how Chuck could be intimidated. He wouldn't stand a chance against John if it came to a physical fight. "Bill, you gotta watch yourself. John's worse than bad, he's evil. If he gets a chance, he'll go after your wife as well," Chuck said. "Too late for that," I thought. "You gotta do something to stop him," Chuck added. "Talk to Ryan, whatever. Who knows what he'll do. So how's the job hunting?" I asked, hoping to change the subject a bit. "Terrible," Chuck said. "I've had several interviews, and they all go well, but I get the same answer. Sorry, but we need someone with better qualifications. That's not fair, I said. Getting an job here is tough, sure, but Chuck had excellent qualifications with education and certifications out the rear end. Plus, he was a damn good worker. Someone told me that things went downhill after they called my previous employer, Chuck said. It seems that John has been spreading lies about me all over town. Bastard, I said. Yeah, so anyway, I managed to get a job at a convenience store, he said. It's not great and doesn't pay well, but at least we can stay in our apartment for now. Hang in there, Chuck, I said. I have a feeling things are going to come to a head with John before long. I don't want to give you false hope, but if there's any way possible, I'll see if I can get you back on board, thanks, Chuck said. There's no way I'll work anywhere near that jerk, though. I hear that, I said, dropping the subject. We finished our lunch and headed our separate ways. Stay in touch, I said before leaving the parking lot. I headed home to grab some sleep before coming into work. Little did I know what I would learn that morning. Chapter 5, Planning the OP. After getting over the initial shock of that video, I decided it was time to end John's reign of terror. Based on what I had seen so far, the marriage was clearly over as far as I was concerned. After all, why didn't Wendy tell me what was going on the way Chuck's wife did? Did John have that much control over her? Did she really like what he was doing? It didn't matter, though. All that mattered was revenge and putting John in his place. I did some checking and found that John was a creature of habit. Every week, he worked from home on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Then I recalled Sandy, his wife, saying she worked 3 days a week as well. I was beginning to see a pattern here. From what I could tell, John would wait until his wife had gone to work, then watched his Skype to see when I was online. After reassuring himself that I was at work, he would go to my house, create mischief with my wife, and get home before his wife. Granted, this was based on a bit of circumstantial evidence, but it fit everything I saw these last 2 months. If I was right, he would work from home today as well, coming into the office on Tuesday, which didn't leave me with a lot of time. I needed help from 2 allies to pull off what I wanted to do. I decided to speak with Ryan as soon as possible, but I also needed to get in touch with Angela. I wasn't 100% certain if she would go along with my idea, but I had to approach her and hope she wouldn't tell on me. Then there was the matter of my wife. I still loved her, but that was turning into hate. How could she do this to us? After all we'd been through these last 15 years. One step at a time, though. By now it was 5 to 30, and I needed to reach out to Ryan and Angela. Ryan normally came in about 7 and Angela was usually in by 6:30. I sent Angela an email. Angela, extremely important, I speak with you as soon as you get in. Thanks, Bill. After hitting send, I called Ryan at home. I hated doing that, but I figured he was probably up getting ready for work. What's up, Bill? Something go down, he asked. Yeah, you could say that, I said. It's very personal, and it involves John and my wife. I really need to see you as soon as possible. Oh my goodness, he said. I'll be in as soon as I can and we can talk. Thanks, Ryan. I'll see you when you get here at 6 to 32. Angela came to my desk. What's up? She asked. Your email said it was urgent. Yeah. I said, it is. Listen, I have a really big favor to ask, and if you decide to say no, I'll understand. All I ask is that you keep it to yourself. Hey, she said, you've covered for me more than once, so I think I owe you one. Thanks, I said. I then told her what I saw and what I planned to do. She fell into the chair at the side of my desk in shock. Oh my goodness, she said, her eyes wide. Listen, you got it, anything you need, and I won't tell anyone. I suspected something was up with John, but I just couldn't put my finger on it. She went on to tell me how he had come onto her nothing major, but it was enough to keep her on her toes. When are you going to do this? She asked. Wednesday morning, I said. So you'll need to be here about 11:45 Tuesday night. Are you up for it? Yes, she said without hesitation. Thanks again, I said. Until then, it's important to act like nothing's changed. Got it? Absolutely, she said. Great, I owe you big time, I said. I'll be talking with Ryan in a bit. He knows what happened, so if everything goes right, John will be out to here by this time Wednesday. She smiled and patted me on the arm. Good luck, and call me if you need anything, she said. Will do, boss, I jokingly said, referring to her status as team lead, a position John gave her after putting me on the graveyard shift. By then, Ryan showed up and motioned for me to meet him in his office. I grabbed my laptop with the incriminating evidence and followed him inside, closing the door. Thanks for coming in and seeing me like this, Ryan. No problem, he said. So what's this evidence you have? I explained what had transpired over the last 2 months, and then showed him the worst part of the video I saw that morning. Darn it, he said, not hiding his anger. He will be fired today. I've got a better idea, I said. What's that? He asked. I laid out my plan to him and suggested he join me so he could fire John to his face while acting as a witness at the same time. He smiled as I laid it out. Remind me to never get on your bad side, he finally said. Absolutely, I'll do it. I'll be at your place by 10 p.m. Tuesday night. Thanks, boss, I appreciate it more than you know. My pleasure, Bill. When this is over, I think you'll get that promotion after all. It should have been yours to start with, he said. One last thing, if I may, I said. What's that? Ryan asked. I told him about my meeting with Chuck and passed on what he told me. Poor guy, Ryan said. What's your idea? I think at the very least, Chuck should get his old job back, maybe even with a raise as compensation for what John did, I said. Ryan thought for a minute before responding. I think that's the least we owe him. I'm surprised he hasn't sued the company before now. Maybe John's threat really affected him, he said. Thanks, I said. It'll mean a lot to him as well. See ya Tuesday night, he said. Chapter 6, confronting Wendy. My meetings with Ryan and Angela gave me hope, but the worst part of all this was yet to come, confronting the woman I had been in love with for years. I wasn't sure how she would react after seeing the evidence, but a part of me really didn't care. I called her as I always do, letting her know my shift was up and I'd be home as usual. I tried to sound like nothing was wrong, but apparently I failed. Are you okay? She asked. Oops. Yeah, just a long shift, I said. Okay, see you soon, she said. Love you. Love you, too, I said, hoping I sounded sincere. The next call was to her mother, and I wasn't looking forward to it. Hi, Mom, I said when she answered. What's going on? She asked. Wendy's going to have to stay with you for a little while, I told her. What? She asked. Why? Did you guys have a fight or something? Not yet, I said. I then told her everything I knew up to that point. That's not my girl, she said. She'd never do something like that. This has to be a misunderstanding. The video is pretty clear, I said. You have video? Oh my goodness, she said. Wendy doesn't know that I know yet, I told her. But she will after I get home, and there's no way she can stay, at least not till this gets ironed out. Is there any way this can be fixed? She asked. As of right now, I don't think so. I don't know. What I do know is that she needs to be out of the house for a bit for her own safety and for me to get this all figured out, I told her. I also informed her that I had a plan to deal with John and that it would be best if she wasn't there. And whatever you do, don't call Wendy and don't give her any information, I added. Okay, she said. I won't say anything. I'm so sorry this is happening. Thanks, I said. That drive home seemed like the longest drive in my life. I finally got home, put my laptop on the table, and warmed up my coffee. Wendy was in one of the two recliners facing our television and offered a weak hi. I didn't respond, not even a cursory hello. What's wrong? She asked. She could always tell when something was bothering me. We have to talk, and then you need to pack a few things, I told her. What? She asked. Why? By then, my laptop had booted up, so I brought up the video. Come here. I have something to show you I think you might find interesting, I said. She got up slowly and walked to my laptop. There on the screen was a video clip of her getting close with John. Her hands flew to her mouth and she let out a cry. Oh my gosh, no, she cried, the tears falling freely down her face. Please, she said. It's not what you think. Oh, really? I asked. That's not really you and my boss being affectionate in our bed? Give me a break. How silly do you think I am? Do you really think so little of me that you can cheat on me in our bed and tell me it isn't what it is? You don't understand, she began. Oh yeah, I understand just fine. How long did you think you could do this behind my back? Please, she cried, her face red from crying. By the way, I've suspected something for quite some time. I added, showing her the receipt I found under her bed nearly a month ago. Please, she begged, I'll do anything. Just don't throw me away. I love you and only want you. Yeah, I can really tell you want me so bad you decided to have relations with my jerk boss. Darn it, he was threatening me, she cried between sobs. Really? I don't see a knife or a gun. How was he threatening you? He threatened to hurt us both real bad if I ever said anything. Please believe me. I'll do anything to make this up to you. Please, I'm begging you. Anything, I asked. Oh gosh, yes, I'll do whatever you want. No questions asked. Just make it stop and turn that dang video off. I turned the video off and considered what she said. I remembered Chuck telling me something very similar, that John had threatened his wife as well. Still, I had to get her out of the house for my own peace of mind, and now, it would seem, for her own safety. All right, I said, prompting her to wrap her arms around my neck. I pulled her off of me to let her know this wasn't over. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to do exactly, and I do mean exactly, what I say without question, or else our relationship is over. Got it? Yes, she sobbed. Does he contact you through email or social media? I asked. He emails me right before he comes over. He's never reached out to me on social media. I usually respond and delete both his email and my response. That would explain the empty folders. Find time to start listening to my advice. Okay, do not give him any reason to believe that I know what he's doing. Respond just like you always do, and don't delete anything. It could be evidence, and I'll be monitoring your email. Same with social media. Any deviation from that, and we're done. Understand? Yes, she said. When does he come over? Does he have a regular schedule? He always comes over on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and always in the early morning after you're at work, she told me, confirming what I thought before. How long has this been going on? About 2 months, I guess. Ever since the picnic. What? Were you just going to let him basically harass you 3 days a week for the rest of your life? You're really not that naive, are you? How long were you going to put up with it? I don't know, she sobbed. Does he know what you drive or where your mother lives? No, she said. Good, I told her. You're going to grab enough stuff to hold you over for a few days, and you're going to your mother's. She already knows and is expecting you, I told her, causing yet another round of crying. Please, what did you expect? I asked rather sarcastically. Why do I have to go? She asked. 2 reasons, I said. First, my trust level has taken a huge hit. What would you do if you saw a video of me being close with someone else? Hisham, you're right, I'd be livid and you'd be out of my life. Bingo, I said. Second, if this guy is as crazy as I suspect, you're not safe here until he's either gone or in custody. If what you're telling me is right, he has no problem breaking the law. Okay, that makes sense, she said quietly. We're not done, I said. I want you to write out the whole story for me, leave nothing out. I want to know when and how all this started. I want details, all of them, and I want to see it in my inbox by midnight Tuesday night. That's about the time he'll be back. No email, no explanation, no apology, no marriage. It's that simple. What? She said, tears flowing down her already red face. You heard me. If I don't see it, there'll be no going back, no second chances, and definitely no hope for reconciliation. I'll visit a divorce attorney Wednesday morning and start the process. So the decision is in your hands. Got it? Got it, she said, looking at the floor. You're right, I wouldn't give you anywhere near this much of an opportunity to make things right. Please know that I love you and only you, and remember that he pursued me, not the other way around. Maybe I said. But you had lots of opportunity to reject him and tell me. Together we could have confronted him and put an end to this. Now we're divided and I have to deal with him while questioning whether I can trust you. I'm sorry, but I was so scared that he would hurt you and I couldn't live with that. I was in the Marines, for crying out loud. If he had come after us like that, he'd be feeling some pain, believe me. And then he'd get what's coming to him. Look, I said, just pack your things and go to your mom's. The less you know about what I'm going to do, the better. Focus on getting your head straight and concentrate on your email to me. After I handle this situation, we can discuss our future, but I can't make any promises. What I saw broke my heart. You might as well have betrayed me in the worst possible way. Now go. One last thing, I said. Don't call me. I'll reach out to you after I read your explanation. Understand? More tears. More sobs. More apologies. I was tired of them. Yeah, I still loved her, but I had to stay focused and I couldn't do it with her crying nonstop. Damn it, if she had only trusted me enough to confide in me. Yes, she quietly said as she went into the bedroom to gather her things. Before she walked out the door, she turned back to me. I love you so much, she said through her tears. Okay, I said, I'll be waiting for your email. And no calls. Period. Remember, the fate of our marriage is now in your hands. Okay, she quietly said, reminding me of the shy girl I first met so many years ago. She closed the door and I watched her drive away. Damn it, I needed a break. Chapter 7, calm. Before the storm, she was gone, so I decided to process everything I possibly could, going over my plan for John. Then it hit me. This all started with the 4th of July picnic. In a park full of cameras. Cameras with servers our company helped install. That was it. I called Ryan's cell and he answered right away. Hey Bill, how's things going? Rough, but I'm hanging in there, thanks. Listen, do you still have connections down at Parks and Recreation? Yeah, why? Does it have something to do with the camera system? I think I might be able to get a key piece of evidence from video taken during the July 4th picnic. It seems that's when all this started. I think you might be able to retrieve that video? I'm not sure, but I can certainly ask. I know a few people down there who owe me a favor or 10. I take it you want this as soon as possible. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks a lot. You got it, and I'll see ya in the morning. Thanks, Ryan. Bye. Things were calmer for the rest of the day, and I went to bed as usual that night, acting as though nothing happened. John came into his office the next morning as usual, shortly before I signed off. He said nothing to me, but something about his body language bothered me. It was almost as if he was watching me. After my shift, I called his home, hoping to speak to his wife. She answered after a couple of rings. Mrs. Brown? I asked. Yes, I don't know if you remember me, but we met at the July 4th picnic. I work for your husband, John. Oh yes, Bill, I remember. What can I do for you? Well, I said, I need to talk to you about your husband and my wife. What? She asked, sounding shocked. Can I come over and show you what I have? Sure, she said, giving me her address. Thanks, I'll be there shortly, and please don't tell John, okay? She agreed, and I made the trip as fast as I could. When I arrived, she met me at the door and invited me inside. I trust you have solid evidence, she began. Yes, I said, opening my laptop. How about video? Oh my goodness, she said. I suspected something for quite a while but could never get any proof. Her eyes grew wide as I played the video of her husband acting inappropriately with my wife. She looked furious when I shut it down. I'm going to confront that jerk, she said, crying. Sandy remained quiet and nodded occasionally as I explained my plan. Then she looked at me and asked what she could do to help. You mean seek revenge? I asked. She nodded. No, I don't want that. I believe that he's been manipulating my wife all this time, and she was simply too scared to tell me. John can be quite intimidating at times. I know, she answered. So what I need from you is to act like nothing's wrong, I said. Continue with your routine as if everything is normal. If this works, John may find himself facing the consequences, and I have every reason to believe he'll lose his job. I'll give you a copy of the video in case you decide to end your marriage. Please do, she said. I copied the video to a flash drive and handed it over to her. I left Sandy's home and was on my way home when I received a call from Ryan. He was able to pull some strings and obtained video footage from the summer picnic. And he said, it appears that John had tampered with Wendy's drink. Can you come to the Parks and Recreation office this morning? Ryan asked. Sure, I said. I'll head over there right now. Great, Ryan said. I'll meet you there. I arrived at PR and met Ryan in the entrance. We made our way to the video vault where he and a PR employee had the video already prepared to the correct spot. The PR employee zoomed in on John and pressed play. Sure enough, he could be seen putting something in Wendy's drink. We watched as Wendy took a few sips before heading to the restroom. It was then that we saw her stumble and John guided her into the facility. She went into the women's restroom as he waited outside for a few minutes, looking around. Then he entered the women's restroom. He came out some time later, and it was several minutes before Wendy emerged, holding her head in obvious pain. Is that enough video evidence? Ryan asked. I nodded in agreement and asked the PR employee if he could clip that part of the video, including the timestamp. He assured me he could and burned me a DVD. I thanked him and Ryan and left. Wendy's story was consistent so far, and it became even more clear to me that John had to face the consequences severely. Chapter 8, Showtime. I woke up earlier than usual that Tuesday night. I had a lot of preparation before John came over for what he thought would be his usual Wednesday morning encounter with my wife. Ryan arrived around 10, and we discussed the operation over coffee. I grabbed my 12-gauge shotgun along with some cartridges filled with non-lethal ammunition. Hopefully I wouldn't have to use it, but I wanted to make sure no one would get hurt if I actually had to defend myself. I heard from Angela, who sent me a text message letting me know she was in position. At 11:30, she logged into the network as me and fired up Skype. At 11:45, she sent a text target online. That meant John was probably nearby, checking to see if I was at work. Soon he would be at my house. I shut off the lights and took up my position in the bedroom, my shotgun loaded and ready for use. Ryan took his position in a front bathroom that would enable him to block John's exit. By now, he would have sent Wendy an email letting her know he was on his way. I checked on my smartphone and sure enough, there it was, along with the pictures he used to blackmail her. Okay, I wrote back, pretending to be her. A few minutes later, I heard the lock in the front door being opened. The jerk had a key. He shut the door and I could hear him walking toward the master bedroom. I'm back, he shouted out. Are you ready for me? Anytime. I said in response as I stepped out of the bedroom, pointing the shotgun at him. The look on his face was priceless. He certainly wasn't expecting to see me with a shotgun pointed directly at him. What the heck are you doing here? He asked. You're supposed to be at work. This is my house and I live here, I told him. What the heck are you doing here? Come to cause trouble? You jerk, he muttered. You're fired. No, John, you're fired, Ryan said as he stepped out of the shadows. John wasn't expecting this. Forget you, he said, pulling a knife out of his pocket. I'm going to hurt you, then I'm going to humiliate you in front of your wife. Maybe you'll learn how to be a real man. John started toward me holding his knife in front of him. I pointed my shotgun at his right thigh and incapacitated him with a non-lethal load. He grabbed his leg, screaming at me, while I moved in and took control. I put the muzzle of the shotgun an inch away from his face. Shut up, jerk. That was just non-lethal ammo. This next round isn't, I said. His eyes grew wide and I kicked the knife away from him. Call 911, I told Ryan. He already had my home phone in his hand and called the police. Within minutes, the apartment was full of police and paramedics. They took my statement and Ryan's statement and the video evidence I had of John drugging and later assaulting my wife. I also showed them the emails he sent Wendy threatening her if she spoke out. I also had video of the assault on the smartphone in my pocket. Officers took that as well as all the evidence collected on my home server. Several hours later, the police cleared out, leaving Ryan and I alone to relax. I sent Angela a text message letting her know it was all over. I also thanked her profusely. Thank goodness that's over, I told Ryan. Yeah, he said. Tell me something, would you really have hurt John? If you don't mind, Ryan, I'd really not go there, I said. He nodded, understanding how I felt. Look, take the rest of the week off and get things sorted out with your wife, he said. I'll handle this with management and I'll reach out to Chuck. I'll call you, but as of now, John's job is yours if you want it. Thanks, Ryan, I said, shaking his hand. I sat down and checked my email and saw there was a message from Wendy, but the phone rang before I could read it. Bill, you need to get to the hospital, my mother-in-law said. Wendy tried to hurt herself. Chapter 9, Wendy's story. I grabbed my laptop and headed out to the hospital. I got to her room and was told by the doctor that she had ingested an entire bottle of sleeping pills. They managed to pump her stomach and got most of the pills before they had a chance to dissolve, but there was still a lot of the drug in her system. Her mother told me she heard Wendy fill the bathtub, but didn't hear her get back out of the tub. She went to check and found my wife in the tub, having swallowed an entire bottle of pills. I put my hand on my wife's head and hugged her while offering a quick prayer. Please, God, don't let her die, I whispered, tears coming to my eyes. I sat down in a chair next to her bed, opened my laptop, and read her email. My dearest Bill, she began. I can't begin to tell you how sorry I am for the last 2 months. There isn't any excuse for what I did, and I should have trusted you enough to confide in you. It's just that John is so intimidating and his threats scared me more than you'll ever know. I knew how scary John could be, so that didn't surprise me. It all started at that 4th of July picnic. I remember taking a drink and feeling really funny, so I went to the bathroom. You were off getting us something to eat, and I thought I'd be back before you. I didn't know John was following me, and suddenly he was there acting like he wanted to help. In a way, I'm glad you found out when you did. It's crazy, I know, but I was about ready to hurt myself at the end. I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't bear the pain I knew I was causing you. And yes, I saw that pain and hurt the other day, and I don't blame you for being upset. Please forgive me and know that I've loved you from the moment I first met you. I honestly hope he gets what he deserves and you find happiness again. I truly hope this email explains things to your satisfaction, and I hope you know that no matter what, I love you and always will. Now, I have to go and do the only thing I know will prove to you just how sorry I really am about all of this. Please don't hate me and know that I want you to find another person, someone who can love you better than me. I'm so sorry. And I love you. The email ended. All my love, your Wendy. Tears were freely rolling down my face as I finished reading her email. I closed out the message and turned my laptop off. I don't know how long I sat there, crying and praying that my wife would just wake up. Finally, I heard her tiny voice from the bed. Bill? She asked. I'm here, I told her, holding her as tight as I could. Am I really alive? She asked, crying. Yes, babe, I said. It's over. John was arrested and it's all over. She hugged me tighter and cried even harder. Can you forgive me? She asked. Of course, I told her. I can't live without you either. Next time, though, talk to me first, okay? Okay, I will, promise, she said. Epilogue: the drama was over, but the story wasn't quite finished. Yeah, I got John's job along with a generous raise and a $2 million bonus from upper management as compensation for what we had been through. Chuck got his old job back with a raise and a bonus similar to mine. Angela got my old team lead position and a lunch on me for her help. John didn't fare so well. Sandy destroyed him in her divorce, but that was the least of his worries. There was enough evidence on his phone and computer to link him to several long-term abuse and even more blackmail attempts. Add to that the federal charges of drugging a number of women without their consent for the purpose of manipulation. In all, he got sentenced to 50 years and had to register as an offender. He never got even close to that, however. 6 months into his sentence, he met his end when another inmate attacked him violently. Wendy and I are doing well, thank you. It hasn't been easy, though. She ended up going through therapy for quite some time as a result of John's ongoing harm. But she's doing a lot better now, and we're actually looking forward to a new grandchild. Yes, life is good.